Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I got some nice compliments about that Hedberg episode on Saturday. Thank you very much. So that was to accommodate my schedule and had to pre-tape a couple here, which means today I want to catch up on a few major items I didn't get to comment on yet. George Lopez says he's retiring from stand-up comedy after his next comedy special. Lopez says, I've subjected the American people to enough of my crap. This is making me feel ancient. When I started at serious comedy, the very first comedian I met in that role was George Lopez, and I have seen people come and go. I was recently thinking of my friend Lisa Lampanelli, who had a hot career for a while. She's retired. Ron White retired. Louis Black retiring. It's just crazy. Lopez says, it seems like the right time. It's been the one thing that has just never left me my whole life, and it's a wonderful place to leave it at this particular point. Lopez got his start in stand-up comedy in the 80s, appearing on the Arsenio Hall Show and the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. In 1992, he told the LA Times that he'd like to star in his own TV show like Seinfeld or Roseanne, where he would have full creative control because the parts they write are horrible for Latinos. He did get his own show, The George Lopez Show, which ran for 6 seasons on ABC. Lopez is only 63. He had a kidney transplant at one point, right? So, maybe that factors in. He says this upcoming special on Amazon is the last one. It was filmed in Los Angeles, September 27th and 28th as part of his All Right comedy tour. He's not entirely retiring, though. He's going to continue to work on his NBC series Lopez vs. Lopez. He says, I want to spend more time with my daughter, and I love the show. Lopez vs. Lopez just headed into its 3rd season on NBC. You've probably seen some Jerry Seinfeld headlines. Jerry Seinfeld backtracked on the comments he made earlier this year. You may recall Jerry had blamed the extreme left and PC crap for ruining comedy. Jerry told The New Yorker back in April that he believed TV comedy was suffering because people are worrying so much about offending other people. His quote then, nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly and they don't get it. It used to be you'd go home at the end of the day and most people go, okay, Cheers is on. Okay, MASH is on. And oh, Mary Tyler Moore's on. All the family's on. You just expected there'd be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke. Well, that's the end of your comedy. I agree with him about the comedy by committee thing. Absolutely. You may recall, Julia Louis-Dreyfus pushed back saying, when I hear people starting to complain about political correctness, and I understand why people might push back on it, to me that's a red flag, because it sometimes means something else. Well, Jerry has now backpedaled. He was on Tom Papa's podcast. All right, here's where I'll jump in. I think Jerry did Tom a favor. Why do you say that, Johnny Mac? Tom Papa has a special on Netflix next week. Papa used to open for Jerry. They are friends. They are good friends. And I think this was an interesting place for Jerry Seinfeld to make headlines because now we're talking about Tom Papa a week before his special. See how all this works, folks? Pay attention to timing on things. On Tom Papa's podcast, which, by the way, the special on Netflix next week, we'll talk about that one tomorrow, Jerry said his original comments were wrong and he regretted saying it. Jerry told Papa, I said that the extreme left has suppressed the art of comedy. I did say that. It's not true. If you're a champion skier, you can put the gates anywhere you want on the mountain and you're going to make the gate. That's comedy. Whatever the culture is, we make the gate. You don't make the gate, you're out of the game. The game is where's the gate? How do I make the gate and get down the hill the way I want to? Does culture change? Are there things I used to say that I can't because people are always moving the gate? Yes, but that's the biggest, easiest target. You can't say certain words, whatever they are, about groups. So what? The accuracy of your observation has to be 100 times finer than that to just be a comedian. So I don't think, as I said, the extreme left has done anything to inhibit the art of comedy. I'm taking that back now officially. They have not. It's not my business to like or not like where the culture is at. It's my business to make the gate, to stay with my skiing analogy. Seinfeld denied suggesting he would never perform at colleges because young people were too PC. He told Tom Papa, I play colleges all the time. I have no problem with kids performing for them. I do colleges all the time. Which is interesting because in 2015, Jerry Seinfeld told ESPN show The Herd, quote, I don't play colleges. Which is a chair. But, maybe 9 years ago he didn't, and now he does. I'll be fair. I don't play colleges, but I hear a lot of people tell me, don't go near colleges. They're so PC. I'll give you an example. My daughter's 14. My wife says to her, well, in the next couple of years, I think maybe you're going to want to be hanging around the city more on the weekends so you can see the boys. You know what my daughter says? She says, that's sexist. They just want to use these words. That's racist. That's sexist. That's prejudice. They don't even know what they're talking about. Asked then if he believed such attitudes hurt comedy, he replied, "Yes, it does." Jerry Seinfeld says, "You're welcome." All right, more stuff Johnny Mac has to catch up on. Last week, Jim Gaffigan crushed the Al Smith dinner. This was last Thursday. Kamala Harris became the first presidential candidate in 40 years to skip the Catholic charity bash. Jim did not pull his punches, said, this event has been referred to as the Catholic Met Gala. 22% of Americans identify as Catholic. Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? Gaffigan got some laughs as he ridiculed Kamala for making times like that naughty podcast Call Her Daddy. Jim said, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. In her defense, she did find time to appear on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert, and the longtime staple of campaigning, the Call Her Daddy podcast. You know what I think this is? I think she doesn't like me. Chuck Schumer, do I have bad breath? Gaffigan talked about the change on the ticket, saying the Democrats have been telling us Trump's re-election is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. It really makes me consider the power of prayer, right, Cardinal? Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed. This is killer stuff by Gaffigan. So great. One person on Twitter wrote, "Hello, 911. I'd like to report the murder of an entire political party." Melania Trump did not enjoy one of Jim's jokes. Jim referenced the whole thing with Trump's comments about they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Jim said, during the first and only debate, President Trump talked about migrants taking cats and eating them. If you're keeping track at home, this is the second time grabbing a kitty has been part of a campaign issue. Think about it. It's a little naughty. I'll leave it there. Trump laughed at the joke. Melania remained, quote, stone-faced. We are going to be very political today. That is just the news. Donald Trump said he leaned on Fox News to help him come up with a tight 10 minutes of joke for the dinner. Rumors on social media were that the jokes had been written by the network's news and opinion host. Trump said, nope, Nick DiPaolo. Quoting Trump, I had a lot of people helping, a couple people from Fox. Actually, I shouldn't say that, but they wrote some of the jokes. For the most part, I didn't like any of them. In a statement, Fox News confirmed that no employee or freelancers wrote the jokes. According to one person familiar with Trump's set, Nick DiPaolo contributed one joke that Trump used. That is not uncommon. When Obama was president, he used some writers from The Daily Show for his White House correspondent's dinner routine. Andrew Schultz has accused the Brooklyn Academy of Music of canceling his scheduled stand-up special just hours after he had Trump on his podcast. Schultz on his podcast Flagrant said 3.5 hours after the Trump interview, they canceled the shows, F them and F them forever. He shared an email from the Brooklyn Academy of Music telling him that his November shows had been canceled with only a vague explanation, quote, after some internal discussions with leadership, it was decided that BAM is not the right fit for the show at this time. Schultz says he doesn't know for sure if it was because of the Trump interview, but the day before it came out, we were ready to go. We were going to go on sale this week. We've had this venue locked in for a month now. It's not like we might do it here. It's booked. It's ready to go. We're going on sale this week. Jimmy Kimmel called out Donald Trump for sharing what Kimmel says is a made-up story about the few times he has been on Kimmel. Trump was on the Full Send podcast. Kimmel shared some clips from that. On Full Send, Trump called Kimmel a loser, and Trump said, quote, I'd do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot, to which Kimmel said, you might be confusing me with Stormy Daniels. Kimmel then pushed back and said, we've been on almost 22 years. You've been on 3 times. Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore has been on more times than you, but go on. Trump said, Kimmel used to greet me on the sidewalk outside his studio. This was before politics, of course, but I'd come in and be standing on the sidewalk saying, oh, sir, can I bring you in? And he'd bring me in every time. Kimmel said, and by every time, he means no times. He loves telling this made-up story. Never did I ever stand on the sidewalk to greet Donald Trump or any guest. The only time I've ever walked out on the sidewalk for Donald Trump was to urinate on his star on the Walk of Fame. He has invited Trump back onto the show on one condition. He has to take a cognitive test. Kimmel said if he wants to come back and accept the invitation that I made last night, that he take a cognitive test against Kamala Harris, I will for sure roll out the burnt orange carpet and go meet him on Hollywood Drive. Sticking with late night, Seth Meyers won the bet with the guy on his staff when the Steelers beat the New York Jets, because everyone beats the New York Jets. I mean, that's not hard. Myers had a bet with Kenny Coyle, a late-night utility grip and fierce Jets devotee. The original bet was if the Jets won, Myers had to place a mug featuring the final score on his desk for the rest of the football season. If the Steelers won, Coyle would get a tattoo of the score and Seth Meyers' signature on his arm. Steelers 37, Jets 15. Speaking of sports, we were watching ESPN's College Game Day over the weekend. Tony Hinchcliffe was on. This caused a stir on social media. I'm just going to quote Tony Hinchcliffe here. Send your letters to Tony, not to Johnny Mac. Tony Hinchcliffe said, quote, "I didn't realize we had prepubescent lesbians kicking today," unquote. Quote, "It's an incredible look. He's like Brokeback Bob the Builder," unquote. He also referred to another player as, quote, "Matthew McKinda-gay." Hassan Minhaj's special is out today. It is called Off With His Head. You may recall Hassan was probably going to host The Daily Show and got in some trouble with his previous special, The King's Jester, in which he elaborated on some real-life events as comedians tend to do, but I kind of understand on the other side why that might not be a good look for The Daily Show. Who knows? Hassan's special was taped in July at the San Jose Civic Center. Des Bishop has a new comedy special called Of All People. That's out on 800 Pound Gorilla today. Of All People's an hour of original stand-up and a culmination of years of experience on stage all over, including Queens, Ireland, and China. Bishop's material often focuses on cultural differences. He noticed being a transplant into Irish society from Queens at a young age. He always incorporates a lot of material about language. I'm supposed to speak to him later in the week, so that might be Saturday's episode. I haven't quite planned it out yet, nor have I actually recorded the interview, which I need to prep for. But I used to hang out in the Irish bars in Queens with Irish people. I'm Irish American, in case you can't tell from my American brogue here. And I remember when in the 90s, the Irish would be like, "Hey, you want to get some crack?" And the Irish word crack, C-R-A-I-C, means good fun. I was in New York City in the 90s. Crack meant something entirely else. So people were like, "You want to get some crack?" And I'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?" No. From cardplayer.com, your home for comedy news, South Korean comedian Lee Jin-ho in hot water. He revealed he broke the country's laws by illegally gambling. He confessed to borrowing money from friends and family, including reportedly 100 million won, that's 74,000 US dollars, from Jimin from K-pop band BTS. In the social media post, Lee Jin-ho said, "I will fully cooperate with the police investigation and accept the consequences of my actions. It was the harsh advice from those close to me and the fear of losing the work I love that finally made me stop gambling. However, by then, I had already received financial help from many people. I am steadily repaying the debt each month and intend to fully pay it off on my own, even if it takes the rest of my life." Lee was the host of the variety show Knowing Bros. South Korean network JTBC in a statement said Lee Jin-ho will leave the program. Starting with this week's recording, we will edit out as much of his previously filmed content as possible. Yikes. Lee was also part of a Netflix show called Comedy Revenge. He missed a press conference to promote the debut. Netflix said, "We are deeply disappointed to learn about this just a day before the show's premiere." However, Netflix said he will remain in the show because the program is structured around team competitions. Fully editing out specific teams presents significant challenges to the narrative. We ask for your understanding. Billy Crystal was honored for his devotion to the Clippers. For some reason, the Basketball Hall of Fame put in Billy Crystal. He is part of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame's James F. Goldstein Superfan Gallery. Billy Crystal said, "How strange to be getting a ring before any of the Clippers." And that is your comedy news for today. If you'd like the program without commercial interruption, there's a link in the show notes. I'll tell you how that works. A short version, $5 a month. Do the math. Not much. You were going to buy me a coffee anyway at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Why not take the second option? Check out the link in the show notes. See you tomorrow.